3 to go. Look at the names on this list here. We got Isaiah Yeo, Satili Tupanua, Keon Kolomatangi, Felice Kafusi. Some beautiful heads up there. 3 rounds left. Now the Bunnies and the Dragons kick things off, and the biggest omission is going to be Latrell Mitchell again. So his back is still clearly playing up, and he's not even in the reserve, so he can't even be a late in, which is super, super frustrating for anyone who ended up climbing into him last week, the Isaiah Yeo into Latrell Mitchell. So my deepest sympathies are with you guys, because that is killer, and I would be burning. So hopefully he then plays in round 27, because I got the bye next week. So wild times. And Keon is back is the big news in this one. So he's a fun little couple week play. What they do have is a fair few middles and just decent players back, which is good. I do expect him to play pretty big minutes though. Like when you're looking at the interchange here, you've got Havili on the bench. He's going to cover 9 with Mamazelis. So you'll have Brandon Smith and Thomas Fletcher, the guys coming off the bench as middles, which probably means guys like Hubner should get some decent minutes there. You've got Jacob Host with Jai Arrow both on the edge, and unfortunately Tallis Duncan moves back to centre. So after his really good week, he pushes back into that zone, and I doubt that actually changes with the setup of this squad and the guys on their bench as well. There's no one else that can kind of come in and cover that centre position, and you've got Fletcher Myers on the reserves, which I don't think that they'd select him there when they can play Tallis in that spot. So for owners of him, the really good week last week turns into a bit of an annoying one against a pretty sort of tough Dragons outfit at the moment. They've got Hayden Buchanan keeping his spot after a really good week, Matt Fainai there, and then Tupolotu still good to go. And Lycan, I'll be looping him in that first one, and hopefully a good game for him after a really good 2 to 3 weeks there. For their forwards, they have 3 guys out, which is crazy. So they've got Murdoch Masilla, the great best cash cow in the land, for anyone who remembers that from 2 years ago now, when I was saying that all the time. He kept going up like 10 12k every week, and I was like, yeah, Benny Murdoch Masilla, the best cashy in the land. And you got Helen Gahu he's partnering Luciano Leilua in the back row there after playing big minutes last week as well. So he's going to be a very interesting little cash down. But the thing is, you've got the 3 big forwards coming back next week. Now, after Damien Cook went the full 80, I'm not sure if that's going to be the play this week, but he does have Little still there and kicking. Crazy that neither of them have had an injury all year. Like, they haven't even missed, I don't even think either of them missed 1 week, have they? We thought that, at the start of the year, we were talking about how we might be able to get a week or, a 4-week span or something like that with one of these guys copping an injury, and it just hasn't happened. So good work to those two, and maybe we'll see it next year at some point. But on the bench there, no one of real note there to kind of have a look at or show interest in those players. In the forwards, unfortunately, and I just saw that news today that Dylan Egan and both of his brothers, so the 3 of them, have all done ACL injuries in the last 3 months. That is tough. So, yeah, well wishes to those guys, and hopefully they can all come back and build into the awesome start to their careers that they've had. All right, we're out in Mudgee for the Panthers, and Isaiah Yeo has missed the team. He's in the reserves, and this is an interesting one because if he hasn't been named to start, that means they're kind of fighting and pushing for him to come back and not 100% ready. And in my mind, I feel like he's going to play, but I feel like it's going to be 50 minutes. I don't know. That's just the general feel I've got. It feels like what we get from him sometimes post-Origin is those lesser type of minute games. So that's what I'm thinking for him, and that's frustrating. Hopefully for owners, he does play. I'm kind of riding on him a little bit in Supercoach, but for fantasy, yeah, you'd love to be able to loop him or have him as a decent scorer this week. And hopefully, again, if it's not this week, it's going to be the following. IPAP continues to benefit from this, and you'll still see good minutes from Sorensen, Henry, these guys off the bench. I still think Edwards is a pretty solid play. Like, came off and did really well on the weekend against a tougher opponent, and that could happen here as well. I expect To'o to play pretty well. Cleary could be a really decent captain. Him and Haas are going to be the top 2 again, which makes sense, and May will be pick 3. For the Raiders side of things, they've gotten through that bye, and the big news here is actually Hosking and his owners found out that Nicholson didn't end up playing Cup last week like it was planned, so looks like everything's been pushed back 1 week, and he's not even named in the reserves either. So for those with Hosking, you get another week of seeing it exactly as it was. 50 minutes or something on the edge, and then moving to the middle, or sort of 30 odd on the edge with Sasangi coming on at that point, and then moving into the middle for sort of 20 odd minutes, 25. So that could be cool. As a bit of a looper as well, I'll still stick with that in my side. In terms of the interchange, this does seem to be better for minutes wise for Tapane, less for Hosking, but better for Tarps, because when Hosking plays the full 80 on the edge, they have an extra middle forward. And now that with Sasangi there, with Owen Paddy there, he's splitting minutes between Smithies, Mariota, Horsburgh, Tapane, and then Josh Papali as well, which is much better for Taps. So I think in this scenario in my team, if I can only loop a couple, this is how I would play it, with Hosking the looper and having to play Taps straight out. Although if you can loop both, that would be smart. So that's that. Guys, that could be a fun pick. And this is a pretty important game. I think if they win this, there's more chance of resting. If they don't win this, they'll probably want to build a little bit more momentum and heading into the finals, because having the bye just then to play like 2 more games, then go for another resting, to then be up and ready for that the first qualifying final, that could be hard. So maybe picking some Raiders isn't terrible. And the 2 guys I think you would select would be Matt Timoko in great form, and it would be Hudson Young. They're the 2 that I would look at as interesting picks. And then Jamal Fogarty should be solid, but I'm not expecting any records broken from him in this game. Now, Storm Doggies. For the Storm, we still see Munster named at fullback, with Pap on the extended though, so keep an eye out for that one there. He may move into that fullback slot, and I'm sure we'll find out 24 hours before or something like that with this one, although they kept the Munster news fairly quiet, because we thought Nick Meaney would be in that one jersey after Pap was ruled out. So there's that one there. Their back 5 stays exactly the same. Sevo having a cracking one last week. Tyron Wishart, a really good pick this week if you've only got under 500k. And then in the forwards, expecting some good scores still out of Eli Katoa, Trent Liero, Harry Grant, and then Stefano, still a very interesting pick, but has gone up a fair bit in price. And now there's other guys that are over 600k or less. Hopgood, Tino, that can do a job for you. But Harry Grant, we know the quality of scores that he can throw out there as well. Now in this scenario, very much hoping that Kiraz goes back to the right, which will actually put him up against Xavier Coates. The way that they outdid Tuala last week against Daniel Tupou, you'd expect that. So that's what I'm thinking, and I'd love to have Kiraz on that right again. But he's another guy you could loop as well against the Storm, given, yes, he has some good scores in him, but he has plenty of 30s that aren't amazing at the same time. Galvin, Burton, still looping guys as well. Should be pretty safe with Preston in this one. Should get plenty of work. Now down that left-hand side, a little bit different than it would be getting the work against like Eli Katoa on the right, but Joe Chan, how good's he been playing lately? He replaces Sean Bloor, who's actually out for how long? Doesn't actually say, but he'll miss this game. So he's played 50 minutes twice in a row, so maybe he's not in good spirits at the moment. Now, for the Eagles, if you still need someone in the mid-range, cheaper than, 50, 60k cheaper than where Drinky and Walsh is, these types of guys, I still think Turbo's a decent play. He should be able to go pretty well against the Finns. Like, you'd imagine somewhat of an even contest, potentially. Last week would have took a lot out of the Dolphins as well. But losing Garrick, probably just going to sit there as a looper for me with his terrible price point. So, yeah, Turbo, the main guy to look at. DC will goal kick. So I was having a laugh with Mitch. He was saying, apparently, if I don't talk to him for 2 hours as well, it's an absolute travesty. But left him hanging while I was working. Poor fella. He'll be right. DC, he was saying that DC is going to kick 10 goals. I said, mate, they've actually just scored tries for him to kick goals, and they are few and far between at the moment. I think it's like less than 30, or they just ticked over 30 points in the past like 3 or 4 weeks. So super tough for them at the moment. So really no one in this team outside of those 2. You could look at DC, but it's not exciting. And Turbo are the guys to potentially look at. But for the Finns there, we do see Trey Fuller move back to 14. So anyone looking to take a potential flyer on him won't be able to happen. Hammer goes back to fullback, which I think is a fun little matchup here against the Manly boys. So he could be really, really good. Their backline stays similar. Hopefully Isaiah Katoa can have a better game. We're due for a 50 plus from him. That would be delightful. Jerry Marshall King is fun as well. And with Felice back, just gives them another middle forward, which will be helpful for him as well. They've been in need of those guys. In that with him back, Talfa and Ray Stone both move into the reserve. So a few change ups and a few fresher bodies, which is going to be good as well. Now for the Titans, the big one, make sure you have Campbell. You can get to 60 very, very easily. I really hope both more stays on the edge. I'll be playing him straight up this week. Let's hope it sticks that way. But I think I'll just have to go with it anyway because he can do it wherever, apparently. Tino, he is the value pick of the week. Very, very clearly. Keanu Keeney sticks on the bench, so not sure about that one, or how they're going to play this one. Is he going to move around and into the side a little bit quicker? I'm unsure. So that's really it from that side. Randall's getting a bit awkward. He's just not scoring super well, unfortunately. And the team's not being great either. For the Warriors there, you see Chance go back to fullback. So looking at Tuapiki no longer. Rocco Berry does return. Tanner Boyd in that sort of looping territory, or loop others and then see if you have to play him. Aaron Clark hoping for some good minutes here. He's got, hopefully, not too many guys that are going to steal minutes from him on the bench, with Jeremiah Tueva, and then Stella Smith as well with Halasima. So not a lot of big minute middles in there. So hopefully Clark can do that, especially with Ford gone. So I expect Clarkie and hope that he goes into bigger minutes, and it should be helpful for Fisher Harris for work, and then Valmunga as well. So all those guys should benefit a little bit from Ford being out the rest of the year. So Clark feels very, very safe now that he doesn't have Ford to lean on for massive, massive minutes. And I think he'll be getting sold from my side. Now for the Eels up against the Roosters, on the Eels side of things, stays exactly the same as how they ended up being named, with Isaiah Iongi in at fullback and then Joash Babali in the 6 jersey. Good defense, but outside of that, nothing special. And then their bench and their starters stay exactly the same outside of Luca Moretti. So Sam Rani comes in. We've got Dury, Geimer, and Talon De Silva. This means good things, I think, for Hopgood, having one less middle on there. Not sure where Sam Rani will play. Will he go into the middle? Will he take a few minutes off one of these guys? They've got a lot of edges now, / centers, and then a hooker on there. So Dury, more of a edge, but can play middle. Geimer, same deal. And then, Sam Rani, a center and a hooker. So should mean good minutes for Williams. It's probably similar for Kelma Tuolangi, and then Junior Barlow and Jermaine Hopgood as well. So still a good pick this week, although you've got Tino in there, which you normally wouldn't see at that really cheap price. Now for the Roosters, Daniel Tupou is actually out of this one. I don't know what happened to him. So Junior Tupou comes in, which is funny. It's concussion symptoms after the game. Okay, no good. Teddy's still a great play. There should be only a couple of people that don't own, but it's going to be less of a. That would have been really fun. Daniel Tupou versus Zach Lomax, but now Lomax gets Junior to face up against, which will be fun. Sam Walker's the fun pick near the 600k mark. Nafahu White hopefully goes over for another try. Will Watson actually stay at number 9, or does he just want the number 9 on his back, like they always changed Junior Paulo back to the bench back in the day? Crichton, hopefully a decent job like he did on the weekend. Siwa Wong, still very, very cheap now after the concussion game. Should play good minutes, but unsure now. He's coming back off an injury and then got the concussion. So does he get less minutes? Would definitely be a risk. And then bench is as normal for them. And then the last couple of games, they're Knights and the Broncos. Vitano keeps his spot there. Dane Gagai staying in the centres. Cogra and Arthur. And then you got Phoenix Crossland in Jaden Brayley's spot. So now a push back to 14. So that makes it pretty tough. And if it sticks this way, you'll expect less minutes. Kaipi's Paul, a really good pick still. Jermaine McEwen, a fine play, but had a bit of a low one last week. It's just going to be what kind of Broncos team shows up in this. Do they play, that 15 minutes of beautiful footy? Do they play more of that? Or is it a similar type scenario where they could be in a bit of a close tussle and Haas has to play good minutes and pull it out again like he did last week? But you can see here, Ben Tolte, Kobe Hetherington, the middles only on this interchange bench, and that could see, with Goz out as well, some really, really good minutes from guys like Payne Haas again and guys like Carrigan. So that's that. Ben Hunt, really fun pick at a cheap price of 480 odd. And then you could take a flyer on guys like Mariner, who I may have to do in Supercoach, but is more of a attacking type of game. And base stats are a little bit hard to come from him, as well as Karapani and Jesse Arthurs. So just anyone outside backs really, apart from Katoni Staggs and Gehamat Shibasaki at the moment. So Reece Walsh, one of the picks of the week. And if you want to take a flyer on someone with upside, I may be doing it myself. He would be the guy to do it. And then for the Tigers up against the Cows, Tigers stay exactly the same. So Adam Dewey, a very, very good option this week. Taylor May, a fun centre pick, but I think is a very similar price to Turbo. So either one, I still think I'd pick Turbo on that one. But Taylor's the sort of more fun, I don't know, out there, pod, fun type of pick. Turbo can be fun, but he can also be just really tough to watch, given we know the heights that he can provide us. Terrell May, captaincy-wise, it could be really good against the Cows, but it's hard when there's the two other options, probably in a little bit more form as well, even though Terrell's averaging 75. It's a crazy time in that setup. And then Cows, they stick with the same team as well. You got Valemay in there. Violay, I think, has had a really improved second half of the season, so it's good to see guys like Tamalolo out there as well. This should be a fun clash. I expect it to be somewhat close, and there's no one really else in this team that I would look at selecting outside of Dearden, who has definite upside, but remember these guys have the bye in round 27. So that's team list, guys. I'll get the best buys out to you as quick as possible, but yeah, no kind of rush this week. Just make sure you get your final moves correct or get your looping set up. As I said, with those first few games, guys, make sure you look at LKTs and these types of players, potentially any of your Raiders up against the Panthers there. Guys you're a little bit worried about, like Hosking and Tarpanay. And then if you've got Karaz, you can have a loop with him. If you've got someone out in that position, you might have Hines out for the half. You might have Adam Fanua-Blake, so maybe that helps with Tarpanay. These types of things here, but plenty of good picks this week at reasonable prices, under 500k, mid 500s, and then the 6s and 7s as always. So thanks so much for tuning in for this one, guys, and we'll catch you in that best buys video.